We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice long
Welcome
hair,
back
baby,
to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube so you do not miss a Chicago Bears update. And we are continue to go on our quest for 5,000 subscribers. So join us as we set out to give you the best Bears coverage out there. What is going on? Happy weekends. Today, we are going to be talking about a couple things. We're going to be talking about what the actual cap space is. I've seen a lot of stuff going out there online, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday when we broke down Keenan Allen, but I want to talk about it just so we can be the most informed Bears fans out there, but then also talk about a potential extension for Keenan Allen, Dante Pettis signs, and then also the big news, Kenny Pickett gets traded, and then all of a sudden this big firestorm of what is going on with the Bears quarterback situation happens. So we'll be talking about that at the very end. But like I said, let's get started talking about the cap space. And what I'm talking about is I've just seen online a lot people talking about the Bears having $35 million in salary cap space, which actually is incorrect. And I'll explain why. And I just want to bring this up because it's easy for people to get these numbers, and I know that in the age of Twitter, people can just kind of post these numbers out there. So for those that are watching right now, this is coming from SpotRack.com. SpotRack and OverTheCap.com are some of the best websites to get salary cap information. And I'm not here to tell you that they're incorrect or anything like that. I'm just here to tell you that they just haven't updated their salary cap items with Kevin Byard, Jake Curran, Gerald Everett, Amen, Matt Pryor, and Brett Rippon, and Coleman Shelton. We just haven't gotten what their salary caps are, or they haven't been inputted in their systems exactly the way they are, because they look for everything. They look for the cash that's coming in. So even though that on some of them, we are able to see what their salary cap numbers are, sometimes we don't know if it's a multi-year deal. What is the actual salary cap allocation? Also, they want to know what the actual dollars are. So that's the big reason why it still says $35 million, because Byard is not on it, and then also Gerald Everett's not on it, and the other ones also pay a little bit more. So what is the Bears' potential salary cap? Yet again, we're just completely estimating because we don't have the actual numbers. So I just threw this together. So right now, the salary cap, roughly $35 million according to SpotRack.com. But when you subtract $7.5 million, which is on average what Kevin Byard's getting per year, minus Gerald Everett's average per year, which is $6 million. So yet again, that could be different. They could do what they did with Swift and have less in the first year and then more in the second year. That is a common thing that they do. But then also Amen, he has a one-year deal worth $2.1 million. And then Coleman Shelton, 1 year, $3 million. And then Matt Pryor, Brett Rippon, Jake Curran, I haven't seen anything about what they're actually making. So that's a giant question mark. But then we take all those numbers and then we actually add $7 million. Now, the reason why is because they have to cut down to eventually 51 based on the salary cap. It's 53 overall with the roster, but the way with the salary cap, you cut down to 51 to track what the actual salary cap is. So what we get for the total is an estimated $23 million in actual cap space. Keep in mind, though, Matt Pryor, Brett Rippon, and Jake Curran are not on that. So if you add them, and let's just say that each one is, $2 million on each one of those. So it's $6 million. So you're roughly $17 million. So it's just around that $20 million range is what the Bears' actual salary cap is looking at. Yet again, these are all predictions. These are all guesses, but I just wanted to kind of correct that a little bit just with that $35 million that I see people throwing out there, because as we as armchair GMs are planning the future for the Bears, we should at least just know kind of where that salary cap actually does sit. So with that out of the way, let's continue talking a little bit of salaries with a potential for a Keenan Allen extension. So this actually became a very hot topic after he got traded, and today, as cooler heads all of a sudden started coming through, Brad Spielberger tweeted this out, where Keenan Allen has a $5 million roster bonus due in a few days. It's due on Sunday, just for those that don't know, and a huge $18.1 million salary for this upcoming season. And he turns 32 years old in a month. So one of the big things is that there might be a short extension, and Spielberger also reports on that too. He's an absolute dog, but this is a pretty big swing, even for just a fourth. Wonder if he gets a short extension. And I think that is the key thing. And also, I was listening to ESPN 1000, and John Yurkovich and also Tommy Waddle, they were talking about this too, of the potential of just getting that 1 year deal and working on an extension. And a lot of people out there are saying they'd be surprised if Ryan Poles isn't already talking to Keenan Allen about a potential extension, just to try and lower that number a little bit. But keep in mind too, Keenan Allen was traded because he didn't want to take a pay cut. But when you do go and get traded to another spot, you realize what you're actually worth. So, which was a 4th round pick. So that might come into play with some of these contract negotiations. But if I were the Bears, I'd go after just a 1 year deal extension with him, because he's already going to be 32 years old. And historically, like I've said plenty of times on this show, 30 years old for wide receivers, they really do dip. Allen really hasn't shown a big dip in his production, but it is something to at least be wary of, because a normal long life for a wide receiver in the NFL is 34 or 35. So if they do an extra 2 years, that might be a little bit too rich for me, unless it's not a rich extension. So I'm open just for a 1 year deal, but we will see sooner rather than later, something to monitor this weekend, because it could be done this weekend. If there was a time for it, it'd be now. But let's talk about Dante Pettis. And honestly, I don't have much to talk about Dante Pettis. We all know who he is. He re-signed with the Chicago Bears. He was not with the Bears last year, and the designation was he had an injury with his neck and ultimately sat out for the year. So last time he played was with the Bears back in 2022, and we all know how that went. It wasn't great, nothing fantastic, but the Bears bring him back in, and honestly, I don't hate the move. I think that you at least just have this veteran depth. You know, he's 28 years old. He's a younger wide receiver. He's not this super old vet, and you shouldn't expect him to be a starter like the Bears did back in the day when we were tanking. So to me, Dante Pettis, I don't mind it. I don't hate it. He brings some potential value with special teams. But yeah, who would you rather have, Dante Pettis or Velus Jones? I think that's the big question out there too. So Dante Pettis, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just another body that's out there that will just be competing for the 53-man roster. So let's just get into the big news, though. Kenny Pickett to the Eagles, which sounds so weird to say as big news for the Bears, but he was traded over to the Eagles. And the big reason is because obviously the Bears quarterback situation is the biggest discussion point in all of Chicago sports. And also, it is one of the biggest discussion points in the NFL right now. And the Eagles were seen as a trade destination for Justin Fields that the Bears might be interested in. And ultimately, Kenny Pickett goes over to the Eagles, so you can basically cross the Eagles off of that list. And what Kenny Pickett went for was the 98th pick, which is a compensatory 3rd round pick, and 2 2025 7th round picks. So not a lot. But honestly, when you see a 3rd, though, for Kenny Pickett, who hasn't shown much, yeah, Justin's worth more than that. Justin's a better player than Kenny Pickett. So I think that really kind of sets the market, and why it's news is, for one, crossing the Eagles off, but also going, okay, if he's going for a 3rd, if the Bears were to trade Justin, it's got to be better than that. He's better than Kenny Pickett, I'll tell you that much. He's got to be, right? So let's talk a little bit more about this, because then more details emerged, and what made it even more important, because people were talking about the Bears talking with the Eagles. And then this quote comes out from Dan Graziano of ESPN. He said, "From what I understand, talking to sources around the league, were one of the Bears were one of the teams that had, or the Eagles were one of the teams that had talked to the Bears about Justin Fields, but obviously could not get to the point where they agreed on a price, so they traded for Pickett. And I want to make sure that we do accurate reporting here too. This is what was reported from Dan Graziano. There was nothing, and I've already seen headlines where people are saying that, see, he's on the trade market. This has nothing to do with him being on the trade market. This just means that they had discussions on it. And yet again, in my opinion, if Justin Fields was on the trade market, there's a difference between when you are in the market for something and when you're just having a discussion with someone about what would it take, right? So they were talking about a trade for Justin Fields, so that was happening, but there's nothing in this on who started it or how exactly it went down. We just know that there was some discussions. So it means that, it's kind of like what we knew. If someone came to Ryan Poles with an offer, he would discuss it and he would entertain it. I don't think that, I know some people on, there's the two sides of the fence. I know some people on one side of the fence, they'll say that he's never going to trade Fields for anything. And then there's the other side say, oh yeah, he's out there open shopping. It's really somewhere in between. It like most things in life, I think that ultimately what it is that he's just, Ryan Poles is waiting. He was having these discussions, and that's what it is, right? That's ultimately what this is telling us. But also, the thing that is just nerve-wracking, though, because I've said this on the show, I think that the Bears are going to go with Caleb Williams. I think it's also the smarter move because you do reset that quarterback clock. But I got to tell you, too, being honest with you, when you look at the potential spots that Justin Fields could go, it's not looking too pretty for that idea. Because I'm also in the same camp of I don't really want both quarterbacks in the same in the same city. And I don't want to just release Justin Fields or do anything like that. Because I think that getting a quarterback is a smart idea for the Bears right now. But yeah, you can't have them in the same room because I liked what Clay Harbor had to say about it because he talked about how when he was with the Eagles, it was Kevin Kolb and Mike Vick and Nick Foles, and people created sides. And so no matter how much people want to say that they're professionals that get paid millions of dollars, in the end of the day, they're human. They're going to have natural biases towards different people. And if you're investing in a quarterback, you want to go all out for them. That's my take on it. So if they were to go that way, where would Justin go? And to me, there's two top options, and that's it. It's the New England Patriots if they wanted to go with Justin Fields, and then maybe they trade back with the Vikings, because that's another team that I crossed off my list. I said the Vikings, no. The Vikings are not an option because the Vikings just traded for another first-round draft pick, which screams that they're going to be trading up to 6, to 4, to 3, to 5, whatever it might take. It seems like they're going to be trading up to get their guy. They're putting something together to move up overall. So that's why I just removed them, because they already have their quarterback in Sam Darnold as the backup. So they're off the list. But yeah, Patriots and Steelers are the two teams that I really think that there are. And then I put potential options as the Denver Broncos, just because they don't have a quarterback right now. I don't think that Sean Payton, from people that know Sean Payton, say that he doesn't like Justin Fields. He wouldn't want Justin Fields as his quarterback. So that's where it's asterisk, probably not. And then New Orleans Saints, if they want a backup of some sort, because they really don't have a true backup quarterback behind Derek Carr. And I think that he would give them a substantial upgrade. But then my very unlikely underlined wild cards. Yet again, I only have 6 teams out here total, but maybe the Vegas Raiders don't want, they have some middling quarterbacks. They have Aiden O'Connell. Maybe they want something because of Luke Getsy. Like I said, very, very unlikely, highly doubtful. But then the other one was Miami Dolphins, just because the backup quarterback situation. We know that Mike McDaniel likes Justin Fields, as he was kind of joking with him on the sidelines. But yet again, very, very unlikely. I am not holding my breath. I'm not putting $1 on any of those two teams. So yeah, I really think that it's down to really just two options in the New England Patriots and the Steelers. So to me, it's, Poles, are you going to hurry up? And recently, we just found out a little bit more about the timeline. Courtney Cronin of ESPN said this on Get Up this morning, said, "It doesn't feel like Chicago is in a rush to get Fields off the books, but as we get closer to the draft, deadlines could speed up the action. The Bears want to do right by Fields, but Fields' trade market is dry. That is something that the Bears maybe didn't foresee." And then she said later on, "Most sources I have spoken to indicated that a team in the draft won't get their desired quarterback, and that could force a Fields trade." Which, in short, means this might go on all the way until draft day. So I just want to see a trade at least happen, so we at least have what the heck is going to happen. But yeah, it's still the countdown to the draft overall. But ultimately, what it looks like is, even though that Caleb Williams' pro day is in 5 days on the 20th, we still might be waiting out and holding out hope, because something might happen during draft day. And ultimately, Ryan Poles, this guy is patient. This guy is the Zen master. He is chill. He's cool, calm, and collected. But I know a lot of us are going, all right, so what's going on? Because right now, with all those quarterbacks coming off and all those quarterbacks going to teams, if the Bears want to go with the quarterback at 1, it becomes very interesting in what they would do with Fields ultimately. So I already know a lot of the people that are on the Field side of the wagon are cheering every time that another person just cross it off the list, right? So we'll see what ends up happening, though. But you already know we're going to keep you covered with the best coverage out there. So make sure to like and subscribe out on YouTube, and rate the show 5 stars everywhere you get your podcast. And with that, have a great weekend. And Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and